What's the worst search history you've ever seen? I once helped a family set up their home computer network, and in the course of doing so, I ran into a patently bizarre sort of family feud. This started with my friend asking me to help her Aunt Ellen set up the internet at her house, which I agreed to do. At first, this seemed like it would be a simple endeavor. I'd just set up a router, install a couple of wireless NICs, and be done with it. However, Aunt Ellen had a few special requests. The most important thing, she told me, is an internet password. I nodded my understanding, though I wasn't completely sure what she wanted. "Do you mean a Wi-Fi password?" I asked. "Something to protect your wireless network?" "Oh, yes, certainly that," replied Aunt Ellen, "but I also want to keep my kids off the internet if it's past dinner time. That's when all the creeps come out." Well, that was fine. I had some private thoughts on the matter, but I wasn't there to offer parenting advice or play internet educator. I set up the network, put the necessary conditions in place on the router, and moved on. "Okay, great," Aunt Ellen said, visibly pleased. "Next, put passwords on each of the new computers." She didn't immediately offer an explanation for this, but my assumption was that it was to keep her son, the 10-year-old, from snooping on his sister's machine, and vice versa. "Do you want to have your kids set up their own passwords?" I asked. Aunt Ellen's answer was accompanied by a look of shock. "Oh, no, 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 only my husband and I will know them. I don't want my kids on the computer without permission." Again, this seemed counterproductive to me, but I held my tongue and did her bidding. With everything complete, my final task was to reconnect the family computer to the network, and go on my merry way. I didn't know it at the time, but my job was only halfway finished. The following day, I received a phone call from my friend. Her Aunt Ellen, it seemed, was having some unspecified difficulties with the new network setup, and she wanted to know if I could stop by to help with them. I was wary of becoming the family's personal IT technician, but the fear that I'd done something wrong brought me back to their house. Upon arrival, Aunt Ellen explained to me that her husband had been unable to check his email the night before. "I know you did your best," she said, "but do you think maybe something went wrong?" "Well, I can certainly find out," I replied. "Do you know if he used the right password? Remember, if it's after 7, you need to enter it first." Aunt Ellen smiled and nodded. "Oh, yes, definitely. I even tried it myself." I was skeptical, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt and pulled up the router's configuration page. Everything seemed to be in order, except for an extra entry that I'd never seen before. It specifically locked a handful of URLs, each of them clearly pornographic in nature, and had the curious label of no Facebook, no adult films. "I need to check something," I told Aunt Ellen. "Do you mind if I look at?" I thought for a brief moment before continuing. "May I look at your daughter's computer?" We went up to the girl's room, and had a look at the computer in question, after Aunt Ellen made me avert my gaze while she entered the necessary password. Lo and behold, somebody had created a second administrator account, and their browser history showed that it had been used the night before to access the router. Suddenly, it dawned on me, I'd never changed the router's default password, and Aunt Ellen's sweet, innocent, 12-year-old daughter had taken it upon herself to passive-aggressively block her father's access to his adult films. It was, to say the least, an awkward predicament. Fortunately, I managed to resolve the situation while leaving everyone's pride intact, although it took a lot more finesse than I had expected the task to require. In the end, the father's browsing capabilities were restored, the router's password was changed, and nobody, save perhaps the 12-year-old, was any wiser. And even though I undid her work, I left the bent paperclip that I saw beside the girl's keyboard.